Hey YouTube, Chad here from Dirt Poor TV. Today what we're going to do is we're going to install an ice crusher cab heater on this 2021 Polaris General. If you like side-by-side videos, snowmobile, ATV, dirt bike, go to my channel, click on videos, scroll through, and if you like what you see, please consider subscribing to the channel. So this is what your ice crusher cab heater is going to look like. It's going to come in a box like this. I'll get it open and get it laid out here on the table and show you everything that's inside. This is what your kit's going to look like when it's unboxed from Ice Crusher. You will receive a colored parts list. Make sure you go through the parts list and make sure you have all of your parts. There will be an instruction manual that is also colored, and it has some templates in there, and it kind of shows you where to put the templates when you install everything. So very good detailed instructions. You'll also receive your packing slip in the box with your kit. So just to go over some of the things, you know, here are the vents, diffusers, the Ys, a package of hardware, mounting brackets, wiring harness. This one we did order the max stat with it, and we also did the heater valve control, which will control the heat on or off. So in your summer months, you just be able to turn it to cool, and it will not route antifreeze through your heater core. So heater core, some hosing, and also some vent hosing. These are the tools that you can get from Ice Crusher to pinch off your hose line when you're going to connect everything. So basically what you do is you put your hose in here, flip this around, tighten it down, and it'll pinch the hose off, and then you can cut it and you won't lose a lot of antifreeze. So these are the vents that I have that I purchased extra for these Polaris Generals or Rangers. I have a whole video of installing these on a Ranger, so you can watch that video if you have a Ranger. But these are just these are rectangled vents. They seem to work pretty good, and they look nice in the top of the dash. So these are what I use, and you can pick those up at somewhere where they sell vents. Polaris even sells them also. I do have the bus bar kit here, so you're able to hook up straight to the bus bar, and you don't have wires just hanging all over. If you're looking for an in-cab heater, definitely check out icecrusherheaters.com for all your heater needs. Start by removing your hood and your windshield if you have one. This is one thing nice about the lock and ride. After you remove the 7 push rivets that are out here on front, there are some clips that go in here at an angle, so you're just not able to lift directly up. You kind of have to work the hood back towards you and up at the same time. It is a little tricky, especially if it's never been out before. So kind of work it. There's one. And if you have to, go across to the other side. Don't get rammy and just start pulling on it. Yep, just like that. And I'll show you the clips. As you can see, it has the metal clips and none of them are broken. Cut out your templates that are supplied for in the manual. I have already done the right side. Now I'm going to do the left center vent, which is right there. Place the piece in there. Just a little tape to hold it in place. I don't drill through those. I normally take a snap punch, find center. I will do the same on the right side. Make sure there's no wiring or anything behind it before you drill. Now that I've done both sides, the left and right, you might want to get in here and deburr these, clean them off, but I'm going to go ahead and check for fitment. Everything looks pretty good. So you come up underneath here, here's your side panel. Now there is a factory indent right there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-drill a hole through there because it's pretty small. But I'm going to pre-drill a hole and I'm going in here with a 3-inch hole saw so it's hard to see. I want to make sure I hit the right spot. Go ahead and check and see if you have any wiring behind there because you do not want to drill through any of your wiring. Now make sure you deburr this one also like you did the other two. And check for fitment. And repeat this process on the right side. These are the vents that I use for the defrost, and the reason I use them is because they fit nicely here in Polaris's dash. On most of their models, the Rangers and Generals, they have this area designated for these vents. So what I will do is I'll cut these out and then I will install these vents here. How I do that is with an oscillating tool, and then I'll go back through and deburr all of this and then double check for fitment. And here are the vents installed. We're in the cabin. We've already installed the heater control template, which comes in your manual. So what you're going to want to do is cut it out, tape it up there, get it in place. We're going to pre-drill these holes with an 1/8 inch, and then you drill out the hole with a 7/16 bit, both of the holes, which is not supplied in the kit. This is the template for your mounting plate for your heater core. So it says to measure 3 3/4 inches over to the edge of the paper, and then you're going to drill 3 5/16 holes, which the 5/16 drill bit is not supplied. So you have 1, 2, 3, and you're going to need a right angle drill to do this. I'm going to go ahead and drill them out with a pilot hole, and then I'm going to drill them out with the 5/16. Make sure you do not have anything on the outside that you're going to drill into. Now they are drilled with the 5/16 drill bit, passenger side footwell. We're getting ready to drill out the heater hose hole template, and you got to make sure you have the right holes. Now we are using a heat control, so we're going to want to drill out this hole up there and this hole down here. The other 2 holes are for non-heat control system. So those are the 2 we need. Just make sure you have the ones that you need for your application. And also make sure you check on the other side of the firewall that you're not going to drill in anything and damage it. Now that you have those holes pre-drilled with an 1/8 inch drill bit, go ahead and drill those out with your 1 1/4 hole saw that is supplied in the kit. Go ahead and deburr them. I take a little soapy water and I just spray it on the grommets that are supplied. And then just work the grommet in there. There you go. Now we're going to be working on the heater control assembly. This faceplate comes in place, but it is not screwed down. So you're going to want to make sure that you put the 2 screws in there, which are number 10 half-inch screws. They're supplied in the kit. Then next we are going to want to install the 50 millimeter connectors. Those are what are going to mount on the front of the faceplate, and they will end up hooking our hoses to those. And those are going to use the 8 by half-inch screws, and there'll be 6 of them. This is what it looks like with the 50 millimeter connections connected to the faceplate, and the faceplate connected to the heater core. Okay, let's move on to the heater control assembly. This is your heater control knob, and this is your heater control valve. Your heater control valve already has the clip on it. You'll have to take that off and then reclip it. But your heater control knob doesn't. There'll be a little packet in your kit that'll have the nut for your heater control knob once it's in place and in here. And then it'll have this spring clip on here that you have to have. So with that clip, what you've got to do is hook the wire into here, and you want the clip to be clipped on the insulation and not the wire. Go ahead and get that on there. Okay, so you have the clip that goes underneath this plastic. It goes over the insulation, and then underneath this side to make a connection to clip it all together. And then we will do the same thing to the heater control valve. First you have to take the clip off. You want to hook it into the heater control valve. Slide the assembly to where you have it, the clip on the insulation. And then snap that on there. Now we're going to want to finish the assembly of our heater core. You're going to want to take the supplies heater hose and cut it to 2.5 inches. And with your heater core sitting like this, we're going to want to install it on the top fitting. And what I'll do is I use a little bit of water with some soap in it. Remember, water and soap are your friend. Slide that on. I'll take a number 10 hose clamp and fit it on, and another number 10 hose clamp. Put it on. Now we are going to take the heater control valve and install it. And we are going to want to install it in this direction, like so. Get my wires out of the way. And the way the instructions show it, it looks to be like that's about the positioning that they want it in. Now go ahead and tighten down your clamps, and with that it completes the assembly of your heater core and your heat control valve. You're going to have this mount right here. It is going to be positioned like that. You're going to want to throw this carriage bolt and this one through, and then you're going to want to secure it with these number 10 Phillips screws. Make sure your carriage bolts will fit through there. Go ahead and finish tightening your Phillips down. Turn the unit over. Take your 5/16 nuts that you have, install them onto your carriage bolts, and tighten those down. We're getting ready to install this on the passenger side floorboard, so make sure you get your connection right. So we have yellow and red here, yellow and red. So get those lined up properly. Those are connected. So now we're ready to take it over to the vehicle and install this in the floorboard. We have the heater core in here hanging by one bolt, the left bolt. That's what the instruction manual says to do. That is so you're able to get your heater duct hoses connected to these three from down here, and then you'll swing it up and put the other two bolts in. But since that is in, you're able to pull up all your wiring harness and the loom that comes out, and then also your controller. So this is your control valve right here, but you cannot hook that up yet because the heater is just hanging by one bolt. I was able to go ahead and install the face plate and the fan knob. So now I can hook up the wire. This is the connection right here that goes to the fan. I'll go ahead and hook that up. And my electrical connections, I can go ahead and run them through the firewall and then hook them up there to my bus bar on the outside. Okay, here's something I like to do when I'm getting ready to do my vents and all the hoses. Of course, tape measure, utility knife, and a pair of cuts so I can cut through this. But what I like to do is I like to lay it out. And with this certain application, with the heater being hanging by one bolt and you're supposed to attach the hoses to it, I'm not going to attach all the hoses to it. I'm only going to attach the three long ones to it. So I will be able to go ahead and make up my Ys on out. So what I will do here is I'll cut a few of these and I'll kind of show you how I do it and how I get them to go on. I have a 2-inch piece that I have to cut, which I've already cut one, but it says I need another one. So what I'll do is find the end of the hose here. And this is in compressed state. So I will compress the piece to where I see 2 inches. And I'll usually go one rib past it. Then take the piece, put my utility knife in there. Cut it around until I meet the nylon wire, and then take some nice cuts, snip through there. And then check it. So this is supposed to be 2-inch compressed state. So if I compress it, measure, I'm 2 inches. So that's how I do it, and I'll get all those going, and I'll pretty much lay them out. Well, I'll just show you right now. So the top is a 2-inch, a 2-inch, and a Y. So what I'll do is I'll get some soapy water, lube this up, lube up the inside. Once you can get that wire over there, over the top of that, it'll go right on. And I run them up as far as I can get them to go. Once you get them started, it seems if you turn it counterclockwise, they pretty much screw on, but it's always the trick to getting it started. Here are all my pieces cut and laid out. Like I said, I'm going to try to install these in the machine, and then when I get the heater core up in place, then I'll install the Ys on it. Another thing I normally do is I'll go ahead and I'll install these couplings onto the end. I take them off of here, the actual vent or diffuser, and sometimes I'll run them through the hole, and then I'll put the diffuser on and then push it back in and snap it together. So that's up to you, but I will probably go through and put all these couplings on. I'll show you a little trick of getting these off. I mean, I don't know if it's a trick or not. Yeah, you can push in there, but just take the piece, give it a little squeeze and a little twist, and it pops off. It's just held on with 3 little clips. And then when you want to go back on, just line the clip up to where it's going to go, and it's back together. So here we are on the passenger side of the vehicle. I installed the 3 heater hoses like I talked about earlier. I probably would install these over on the bench and bring it in here and then put your 1 bolt in on the left side, but then again, that's up to you. So now I'm going to spin the heater core up. I'm going to finish hooking up your heater control over here where it has to come through the dash, and then that's your heater control valve. I'll finish hooking that up, and then I will hook up the power to the system and get the rest of the hoses ran. Okay guys, I wanted to give you a shot here of everything before I install the dash panel and the other 2 vents, which would be the defrost vents. Here is a 2-inch vent right here. You have a 3-inch vent down there, and you'll have the same thing on the other side, 1 up top and 1 down below. Here is your heat control valve right here, and this is your fan. So I have it set up to where it comes on when I keyed the switch through auxiliary. So I key on, you have 3 speeds. 1, 2, 3. So all my dry work is done. Everything else is going to be wet work. I'll show you what I got going on up here. Alright, so there's your hose that goes to the dash. Your diffuser over here on this side, and down in there. These are the 2 that go to your defrost, which I'll hook up when I hook up the dash. And moving on to the other side. Your other one right here, and then you have the one down below there. I have the side panel off because I'm getting ready to run the hoses that go to the back of the motor, but I ended up, using the wiring kit that I was talking about before, the pulse wiring accessory harness. I used it, soldered the wires together, just ground, and then I have this one on the auxiliary, and the red is, there's nothing going to the red battery. So I'm going to throw the dash back on here. This is the MaxStat. We're going to go ahead and assemble it. This is the male side. This would be the female side. What you want to do with your gasket is you're going to want to put a little siliconized grease on there. I have some here, some super lube, multi-purpose. This is a multi-purpose synthetic grease with silicone. So we'll take a little bit of it, and we're going to want to lube both sides. Lube up both sides of the gasket. You're going to want spring side down on the female, and there's a hole through here. And what you want to do is you're going to want to line that hole up with this port here. So spring side down, And you have that little hole where the jiggler goes that's removed. You want it lined up with here. Install your male end. And what's good about doing this in the vise is you can look down inside of there and make sure that you still have that hole lined up with this fitting. Now I'm going to tighten it, paying attention that I don't move that hole too far, and do not over tighten. That's pretty good. To getting it lined up perfect, that hole was to hand tighten it with the hole 180 degrees from where it needed to end up. To assemble your Y fitting with your brass 5/8 fitting, you can use Teflon tape. You can use Teflon tape and pipe dope. That's up to you. I am just going to use pipe dope on it. Starting by hand, and then use an 11/16 wrench. Until you feel it getting snug. Alright, here at the back of the machine, I just kind of want to go over everything. There is the max stat right there, and it's in a tight position, but it does fit in there. Make sure it's not touching anything. And I've run the hose down below the other factory hoses, and it comes up right there, and I have it zip tied, and it goes through the tunnel up here. Now since we're in here, we'll talk about the heater and the fan. So the bottom one that's coming into the bottom, that goes to the heater control knob. That one right there is the one that comes from the back of the max stat. And then that is your heater control valve right there. And then the top one coming out goes through the firewall. Now if I did this again, the top hose that's going out to the firewall that goes to the front, I would lower that down probably 1.5 inches, if not 2 inches, almost to the factory location. If you can see right there, there looks like a figure 8 where 2 hoses would go through. That's for the factory heater. I would probably almost put it into the spot on the right, so directly below it, approximately 2 inches. I would think I would run that hose that's going out to the front there. But everything in here is buttoned up nicely. Right there is your 3-inch duct. Come up here, there's a 2-inch duct there, and then I have the defrost vents right there that I installed that do not come in the kit, but you can order them online from Polaris. Moving forward here, we'll go back down to the plumbing side. So there's the hose. The bottom hose is the one that comes in and goes to your heater control valve. The top one is the one that comes out. That's the one I said I would move down probably 2 inches. And then it has to go up and over the top. There, not the top of your shock, just your frame. I don't know if I can get that in there to where you can see, but it goes around the frame, and then it cuts back through, and then it goes down to your Y. Now, cutting those in right there, you're just removing about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. You know, basically the thickness of the Y, you're removing that much of the radiator hose and then installing the Y. Before I show you the operation of the heater, I'd like to go over a few things that I did as a mistake. I missed pumping water into the heater core. What that actually does is it lubricates the heater core, and it makes the antifreeze flow easier through the heater core. It kind of fills it so you don't get a vapor lock or an air bubble in there, and I had the problem on this one. I think on the Ranger video that I did, a Ranger XP1000, I did a heater, the exact same ice crusher heater on it. If you watch that video, it'll show you how to pump your system full of water. So go back and check that out. That'll be on Dirt Poor TV. Go to videos, click on Polaris XP1000 Ranger ice crusher heater, and watch that part. But what I'm getting at is I did have some issues with air bubbles. So what I did was I put it up on these stands to get the front end elevated more, and then also in the instructions it'll say you can pinch the hose, and then that will force air. So it's this hose, the lower radiator hose, that'll force the air out of the system because you're pinching that off and it's running all the coolant through the heater core. So that's what I did, and I actually had to do that probably 3 times. I know for sure twice, but I'm going to say 3 times that I had to do that. So what I did was I started the vehicle, let it come up to heat cycle, and watch the temperature gauge, and then the fan would kick on around 203, 205, and then bring the temperature down, and then I would check to see if I had heat, and I'd have no heat. So I'd shut the engine off, refill all the fluids, top off your reservoir, and then also make sure you let the radiator cool before you check the radiator. But I would refill all the fluids. Then I would do the system again, check and see if I had heat. I didn't have heat, so I went ahead, let it cool, topped off all the fluids. And every time that I did that, I would be down fluid on the radiator and basically out of fluid, or almost out. I never was out of fluid, but almost out of fluid on my reservoir tank. So what we're going to do is I'm going to fire this thing up. We're up to 181 degrees. I have the fan on position 1 or speed 1. Let's check a temperature here. Reading 103, 104, and climbing. We're 183. Right in there. 113. So when I've checked it before, normal operating temperature after everything's warmed up, I'm running about 122 to 125 degrees out of this vent. So I'm very pleased with the outcome of this. At 194 degrees, we are showing 168, 170. As the temperature of the unit climbs, the temperature of the heater will climb. But you want to pay attention to that. You don't want to overheat your UTV, so make sure you get up around that 203, 205, that your fan kicks on and cools this down. I know we're just sitting here idling. When you're running down the road, it's going to be a different story because it's going to be cold out, so it's going to be hard to reach these 194 degree temperatures. What you're really going to want to do is maybe cover your radiator, at least the front of it, not your radiator, but the front where you have the grill. Cover your grill up so you can gain these higher temperatures. If you're looking for a cab heater for your UTV, make sure you check out Ice Crusher Heaters. Also, I'd like to thank you guys, the viewers, and everyone that's subscribed out there who watch the channel. I appreciate everything you do. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't even have this channel. I just do this stuff without recording. So I want to thank you, the viewer. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you are not subscribed, and make sure you check out icecrusherheaters.com.